Hello everyone, welcome to today's session run on the Disruptive Innovation Festival. We're here at the University of Exeter and we are presenting in front of the One Planet MBA cohort. Today we're going to hear from Professor Nicolas Forsans, who is going to talk about disruption and particularly how disruption affects us personally and some of the stuff that's happening out there. So I would really like to welcome Nicolas to this DIF presentation, and I look forward to your questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon. I'm Nicolas Forsans. I'm the director of the One Planet MBA here at the University of Exeter. And I'm going to talk to you about the theme of disruption, where disruption is coming from, and how it is impacting on our lives. A few words about the One Planet MBA, maybe to get started. It's a program that was developed in 2010-11, which is very unique in a sense that it's a program, it's a career development program for professional managers who wish to acquire a very innovative business thinking and then implement it back in their organizations in order to enable the organization to innovate again and remain relevant in a world of disruption. It's innovative in the way that we conceived it. It was developed in partnership with WWF International back in 2010-11. And it was developed with a network of corporate partners, in particular IBM, SAP, Accenture. They shape the program the way it is today, and they contribute to the program by taking part in individual modules, as you'll see later in the year, as you go through the One Planet MBA program. So innovative, award-winning, just to mention three awards that we got in recent years. The Association of MBA gave the One Planet MBA an innovation award to recognize the amount of innovation we were bringing into the MBA market. That was in 2011 when we created the program. Corporate Knights, the company for clean capitalism based in Canada, ranked this program, I think it was third in the world, first in the UK, about a couple of years ago. And the Aspen Institute, which is based in Washington, run this program among a top MBA. That was a couple of years ago. So it's not any MBA for any professional. I think that's what sets us apart. And you in this room, One Planet MBA participants, you are what will set us apart. It's not any MBA for any professional. It is an MBA that is specifically targeted at professionals who want to acquire that innovative business thinking and enable their organizations, whether they are their existing organizations or the new startups or businesses they will go on and create after graduation, to innovate and remain relevant in a world that is very challenging and changing very rapidly. So our focus is on the mindset that we try and promote in the One Planet MBA program, but also the skills, the tools, and that innovative thinking that revolves around the new business models. And as you'll see later in the presentation, the world is changing, and because of the disruption, we need to think about alternative business models. Okay. So that's about the One Planet MBA. If I try and summarize the past 4 decades, that's an exercise that we've done in recent months. The currency of the content and the relevance of the content that we create within the One Planet MBA is very critical, not just to a market, but also the organizations that we partner with. And so what we've done, we look back at the past. We look at the past. How did we get to where we are today? And we look back at the past 4 decades, going back to 1980. Okay? And this comes from a very recent article that was published in the Harvard Business Review last month, which is called How to Survive the Future, which again looks at the past. Okay, what happened? How can we explain where we are today? Two statistics to bear in mind. Global profits, they mostly quadrupled in the past 4 decades. So let's say the starting point is 1980. We are 2010, 2015. Okay? Within those 4 decades, global profits almost quadrupled. As a percentage of GDP, they increased from 7.5% to nearly 10%. Okay? Why is that? For a number of reasons. The first one is that the past 4 decades have been characterized by a very favorable environment to particular Western organizations and multinational enterprises. Why? On one hand, you had deregulations and privatization, especially here in the UK, but also in the Western world, and in the later part of the period in emerging economies, Latin America, Asia. Innovation and competition are promoted or encouraged by those deregulation and privatization. Okay, so those countries have freed their organizations from political and state ownership. So that encouraged innovation and competition. Second is what happened in emerging countries. Over the past 2-3 decades, rapid urbanization and industrialization. And these have created markets which Western multinational firms have been particularly successful in tapping into. Okay? So that explains why those profits have grown significantly in the past 4 decades and why they represent nearly 10% of global GDP. If we look at who benefited from it, these are the percentage of global profits for developed economies. So you've got what? North America and Western Europe together, they account for about 50% of global profits. If I put it into context, developed economies as a whole represent about 70% of global profits. The remaining 30% are accounted for by emerging countries, mostly China. Okay? India, which has made the headlines in the past decades, really, and has embarked into a program of privatization and deregulation, only accounts for 1% of the profits. So on the emerging economy side, it's been driven by China. Developed economies who benefited from it, mostly MNEs headquartered in Western Europe and North America. Why is that the case? Mostly for 3 reasons: scale, global presence, and declining costs. Scale. About 10% of companies accounted for 80% of the profits as of 2013. The bigger the organization, the bigger its bargaining power. I'm looking for a word. The easier it is for those organizations to benefit from scale economics. Okay, and this has been driven mostly by FDI, foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment has increased by much faster than trade has since the 1980s. So they've been busy setting up factories overseas and local subsidiaries in order to tap those markets and produce locally. Second, global presence. 41% of global revenues come from the emerging world today, as opposed to 21% 4 decades ago. And because those organizations have expanded so far in direct investment, they've been very well equipped in order to tap into the potential of individual countries. So some countries like China have for a very long time providing them with a pool of cheap labor. And China has become, over the space of 3 decades, the factory of the world. China is moving away from it and has to move away from it. But those who benefited from it are mostly Western multinational firms. And then third, falling costs. If you think about it, labor costs are very low, okay, because of globalization, because of China in particular. Taxation, relatively low today, because governments are competing to attract multinational firms in their home country in order to fund a welfare state. And then third, borrowing costs are very close to zero. We live in a world, we've been living in a world for the past 6 years, in a world of near zero interest rates today. So you can't borrow any more cheaply than you can today. The thing is, that's probably the end of it. We are about to turn a page, and the world on the other side is likely to look very different. Why is that? First of all, I just mentioned it, growth costs are so low that it can only go up. Okay? China is running out of cheap labor as a result of the one-child policy, which was implemented 30 years ago, and face real problems in going up the value chain, moving away from a model that is based on investment and saving to a model of consumption, consumerism. Okay? Second, so aging population and declining workforce growth, whether it's in Western Europe or whether it's in China, working age population is declining, and therefore the labor costs can only go up. Taxation and borrowing costs will also go up because they are so low today, but they are set at a level that is not sustainable over the longer term. And then third, you've got those big environmental challenges which organizations have started to recognize that they have to do something about it. Not just to do good, but to enable those organizations to be more resilient over the longer term. So growth and cost, and then in the background, you've got Europe, who is in search of a growth model and still hasn't found it. And you've got a shift in economic and political power. Something that is not new, started about 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, but moving forward, the center of gravity of the world economy will go back to Asia. I say go back because the dominance of Europe is a relatively recent phenomenon, and it follows the second industrial revolution. Okay? Go back 300 years ago, China and India were big economic powers. You had and there were countries that enjoyed a far higher GDP per capita than they do today. Okay, this has been eclipsed by Europe through the Industrial Revolution, creating industrialization here in the Western world and taking over from Asia global economic leadership, and then America. The third point is technological innovation, another key disruptor out there. And what we're seeing today is that technological innovation is creating or is enabling new players to come up on the world stage, and those new players are designing, implementing new business models which are disrupting incumbents in a wide range of industries. So that's a point made by, I'm not sure whether you know Jeremy Rifkin, very famous academic based in America, published a book 2 years ago called The Zero Marginal Cost Society. A bestseller. And the point he's making is, this is the book. You can get it for 10, 15 pounds on your Kindle. It's a very good read. It's an accessible, yet very well researched and informed economic book. And basically what it says is, yes, it starts with, it is a technological revolution we are talking about. But what's interesting in what Jeremy Rifkin says is that if you think about capitalism, capitalism embeds in itself the tools that will lead to its destruction. You have seen that maybe in your economics module. Profit is made at the margin, okay? And capitalism is based on the idea that competition and innovation lead to declining marginal cost of production and therefore declining prices. If you think about it, the price of a car today is much lower than that of the same car or a similar car, say 20 years ago. Look at the cost of PCs and laptops. Okay? So marginal cost of productions go down, and as a result, because of competition and innovation, we end up with far better products, far more powerful products, for a fraction of the price at which we would have paid those products 10 years before. But the interesting argument is to say, yes, you've got that technological revolution, but what that technological revolution is doing, it is pushing marginal cost of production down to a near zero level. Okay? Think about the music industry, for example. What is the marginal cost of sending a music file over the internet? Zero. Okay? I can send an email to you, I attach a music file, and here's your music at no cost. And if there is no cost, then there's no price, or the price is edging towards zero. Okay? So you've had competition and innovation, but what this does is that it brings a technological revolution that brings down marginal cost of production to near zero, and therefore brings us closer to a world that is free. And we are getting into that world slowly. Think about music. You would buy a CD single when I was younger for about what? That would be, how much would it be? You buy a CD album for about 15 pounds 20 years ago. 15 pounds of money at that time, okay? So we're probably talking about 30 pounds in today's money, something like that. Today you buy a CD single or the equivalent, you buy an album off iTunes for 5, 6, 7 pounds, okay? CD single today, 79 pence on iTunes. And you can see new business models coming into the music industry and offering those as streaming subscription services which make the cost of music near free. What's interesting is that technological revolution, which many regard as being the third industrial revolution. The first one was steam. Okay. The second one was, any idea? Steel and the railway. So steel enabled the creation of a railway. Suddenly we could carry goods from Newcastle to Liverpool. The oldest railway line in the world is in the north of England, between Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool. So boats would use Liverpool as a port, and then the goods would be transported either side of the country from Liverpool on a railway. And the railway created finally a mass market for goods. Okay? The third industrial revolution is digital. So technology is disrupting all areas of business and in all industries. I think that's the interesting thing. If you look around you, look at music. Before the digital revolution, there was nothing digital about music. Think about hospitality, a room for the night. There's nothing digital about that. Okay? You still need a bed, you still need a roof, you still need a house, which some people call a hotel. You still need a service, you still need a breakfast. There's nothing digital about it. Yet for the first time last summer, hotel chains in Paris and in San Francisco have started to complain about the impact that Airbnb was having on their activity last summer. Okay? So think about the publishing industry. There's nothing digital about a newspaper, but increasingly we are reading news in a very different way. And that drives down prices and disrupt the business model of most incumbents, which don't necessarily know very well how to react to the to new players in that industry. So that brings enormous opportunities. If you think about it, the Internet of Things, we started to talk about it a few years ago. We're getting closer to it. In America, Amazon has come up with something which it calls the dash button, which you put on your fridge. You press that button, and then automatically it orders groceries for you, which are delivered either the same day or the following day. Amazon having expanded in America in groceries market. Okay. How cool is that? You can, in a not so distant future, very soon, you put a sensor on your milk bottle in the fridge, and not only will that sensor alert you when you are close to running out of milk, but automatically it will place an order for you for more milk to be delivered following evening. Yeah. So the Internet of Things will be about connecting those objects to the Internet. Think about a connected car. A lot of car today is digital. Okay. You've got insurance companies tracking your driving style in order to set the premium in accordance to how careful or not careful you drive your car. So the Internet of Things is there. In the next couple of years, we'll see an explosion of devices that will make objects, current, at the moment, dead objects, will make them connected to the Internet. Big data, robotics, 3D printing. In a few years' time, I bet all of us will have a 3D printer in our kitchen, and we will be printing, whether they're containers, whether there will be other devices or components that we use in the kitchen, and 3D printers will sit next to a coffee machine and a dishwasher. Okay, so science fiction is happening. So these are the opportunities, and for businesses and for professionals, great. These are the opportunities, but it will bring significant challenges as well. Okay? For organizations, they have to reinvent themselves. Customers are engaging in a very different way. New business models, disrupting old business models by incumbents in a wide range of industries. The pace of change is accelerating. Privacy concerns and security threats. You had last week making the headline TalkTalk, the internet service provider, having been hacked and millions of customer data being sold over the internet. 2 days later, you had Vodafone suffering, not to the same extent, but a similar event. Marks and Spencer was the next one by the end of the weekend. And if you ask security experts, they say out of the Fortune 500 companies, 500 of them will have been victims of security breaches. Okay? So it's not going away, and we'll have to rethink the way we go about ensuring the security of our systems if everything is to revolve around digital. So what are the implications? First of all, yeah, it's the start of the process, okay? It's a process that started a while ago, okay? Digital hasn't landed on a plate last week or last year. It's been there for about a decade. So it's a revolution that started about a decade ago. But its effects are unfolding slowly every day. So that's the start, it's not the end of it. Second, it will become far more pervasive than it's been. If you think about it, it's about bringing software into activities, industries, sectors, organizations that are not or were not digital to start with. So software is getting into everything that we do. It's getting into our cars, it's getting into our kitchens, it's getting into your body. Okay, you can buy fitness trackers, they will monitor the quality of your sleep, and if you think about your smartphone, you know your every move are being tracked, and we won't be able to live without software. And that disruption will impact us profoundly and will impact on every aspect of our life. Third, it changes the nature of companies we work for. I think what's remarkable is that all those new competitors who are coming into the market year after year, month after month, they tend to be very flexible, very entrepreneurial. They tend to be people-light. They don't employ anybody, and they don't own very much. Okay? For example, if you take Facebook, Facebook has relatively quite a lot of employees compared to, say, WhatsApp. When Facebook acquired WhatsApp for vast amount of money, 22 billion, dollars, whatever. WhatsApp had 55 employees, okay, 55. When Facebook acquired Instagram, Instagram had 13 employees, and that was in 2012. Okay? So very high market valuations. They're willing to pay a very significant price for the asset. But if you think about it, those companies don't employ anybody. They don't own very much. Think about Uber, for example. Uber, they don't employ any driver. They don't own any cars. Yet they are about to disrupt established taxi services and the transportation industry in most countries of the world. Okay? So there are new type of organizations that are coming in order to compete with established players. And I think the interesting thing is that it impacts on what those companies exist for in the first place and the way they are managed. If you think about it, why do organizations exist? Any idea? Have you covered it maybe in your economics module? The theory of the firm, have you heard of it? It's a theory that goes back to 1937, okay? An academic whose name is Ronald Coase, C-O-A-S-E, the theory of the firm. His question was, why does the firm exist? Why do we have organizations there when we've got a market? I can commission a marketing agency on the market to do my marketing. Why do I need to create an organization with a separate marketing function within it? Why do I need to have my own research and development function within the organization when I could easily go into the market and identify innovators, software engineers, developers who will be able to produce innovation for me? Okay? And what Coase said back in 1937 is that organizations exist because they tend to be better than the market. They are better in the sense that if you rely on the market, you've got trust issues, you have to distinguish the reputable marketing agencies from the not so reputable one, you've got quality control issues, you've got secrecy issue, because if you contract an external agency to do work for you, then what you want them to be doing is out in the public domain and potentially can reach your competitor. So organizations exist in order to internalize transactions that would otherwise be taking place on the market. All right? So think about the organization as an alternative to the market. That was true of those well-established incumbents who have been there for a very long time. And today, those organizations tend to be large multinational firms with a very clear distribution of power from the top to the bottom, power and authority. You've got those huge middle-level management level. Yeah, that's something that was created after the war in the mid-20th century. The rise of the middle-level manager. And you've got organizations with hundreds and if not thousands of middle-level managers. Okay? Not necessarily all very happy, because the more you have, the bigger the organization, the more difficult it is for them to relate their work to that of the organization and get that sense of purpose. But that's the way organizations have been for most of the 20th century. Okay? So bureaucratic, vertical structure, with all those middle-level managers in between. Increasingly, those new players tend to be, they're not there to internalize market transactions. Because if you think about it, what Uber does or what Airbnb does, they come up with a software platform, with a platform. Okay? You're still in search for a room for the night, but what they do, through that platform, they connect you with people who've got a spare room for the night. Okay? A spare room or a spare castle or flat or whatever. So those organizations, they don't internalize the transaction, they just facilitate the transaction between a buyer and a potential seller. Yeah? So, do we need all those middle-level managers? Well, of course not, because they don't do very much. They just come up with their platform, they recruit buyers or sellers who utilize their spare assets. Think about Airbnb or think about those platforms where you can rent or use a lawn mower for the day or for the afternoon, or a drill. All those, what we call now the sharing economy, all those organizations that connect you to people with those spare assets. Okay? They don't need people. And that's why they don't employ many individuals or managers. But those organizations are very flexible, and to make sure they are flexible, their structures are very flat. So you don't have thousands of layers between the top and the bottom. They are very relatively flat organizations. Okay. If you look at the fate of travel agents, if you look back maybe 20 years ago, you would use travel agents, okay? Because it was hard for you to get information about the best fare. We have so many airlines on the market. trying to distinguish the good hotels from the bad ones when you're planning a trip at the other end of the world and you've never been there. Okay? So you use a travel agent, you use travel guides. Today, you can separate every section of the decision-making process and do it yourself. So if you want the best airline fare, then you go to, I don't know, Expedia, to name one, or you go to Opodo. Okay? If you want to identify a good hotel for the night at the best rate, you go to Booking. You use Booking.com, or you use Travel or Hotel, Trivago, whatever. Okay? You can do it yourself. Those platforms bring a rating system and reviews, and that's why reviews have become a very sensitive issue, because you have to distinguish the fake reviews from the ones you can trust. But if you think of eBay, eBay is the review system is an integral part of eBay's business model, because without those reviews, you can't have trust in the seller or the organization that sell you the hotel room for the night, because they might be sitting at the other end of the world and you don't know that. But the rating system or the review system is the mechanism through which you can put trust into the platform and therefore into the seller.
Amazon works the same.
With the questions later, okay? Yeah. So, and all those organizations have been, well, it's a new type of economy that is increasingly called the sharing economy. Something that started mostly in America and then in Europe. Today, London has the third largest concentration of sharing economy organizations, with about 121 as of last year, third behind Los Angeles and San Francisco. Okay? So it's something that comes from Western, the Western world, as we call it, Europe and North America, with some in India and Australia. The fifth implication is that, okay, if you think about the impact it has on the shape of this organization and the management structure, you can extend that argument further and look at how is it going to impact on capitalism as we know it. Linked to the rise of the middle-level manager in following the Second World War. So we've had those big organizations that relied on very heavy, very well designed management structures and performance structures, performance systems, etc. Instead, what we see are those new organizations who are born global, clearly. So as soon as they're created, the world is their oyster. Why? Because they don't have many assets. They don't employ anybody. They only have to localize their platform to translate, in effect, their platform in order to tap into different markets. So it's relatively cheap to do. And we're moving away from that managerial capitalism with all those middle-level managers towards a capitalism that is far more, first, entrepreneurial. So we've got all those startups who are disrupting the business models of incumbents, and also conscious. Today, interestingly, this month issue of Harvard Business Review, front cover is what makes a great leader. And every year they identify the leader of the year that best represents a fit between the leader and the times we're in. And this year's winner by this publication is the CEO of Novo Nordisk. And the article is entitled Leadership with a Conscience. Okay? So we are in an era of conscious capitalism where companies have to be mindful of their legacies. They have to pay attention to their responsibilities, whether they're social or environmental. With social media, it's become very easy for customers to voice their concerns, and it can very easily go out of hand. At the same time, they face significant challenges, which means they have to be resilient in the first place. But linked to that, so it's a shift away from the managerial capitalism towards one that is far more entrepreneurial, But linked to the previous one was those big organizations that were created after the Second World War that would provide lifelong employment for their employees and would promote stability of a society. All this is being slowly moved away. We're having those startups who don't own very much, who don't employ anybody, who are creating a huge amount of change in our society. And you can see the impact of it, I think. If you're the back end of it, and I'll talk about it in a minute, it's a very disruptive work to be in, okay? The rise of the disposable worker. So here in the UK, if you're at the bottom end of the chain, you will be on 0-hour contracts with no guaranteed work. Okay, you go to your place of work. Sorry, we don't have work for you. Come back tomorrow. Okay? And so what we're saying, we're seeing the rise of the disposable worker, and that disposable worker is in search of a sense of identity. And you can see the growing mistrust we've got today against big institutions, United Nations bodies, big governments who haven't solved anything really over the past 50 years, and the rise of minority political parties. So it might be UKIP in this country, it's Podemos in Spain, it's Syriza in Greece, it's coalition government in other big European countries, and a general distrust in institutions and big politics. And what Jeremy Rifkin, in the book I referred to at the beginning of the session, refers to the rise of the collaborative commons. Okay, so those shared platforms which empowers us in becoming not just a consumer, we are all consumers, but turning us from consumer into producers and entrepreneurs. And that's the challenge for us. We are all going to be turned into producers and entrepreneurs. So just to summarize, the 4 decades have been great from a Western world perspective, okay, with lots of new opportunities. And Western MNEs have been particularly successful in tapping into those opportunities, but it is changing, okay? We are moving away from it. So disruption is widely celebrated. You've got Disrupt San Francisco, TechCrunch, you've got startup battlefields, or whatever you want to call them, you've got Exeter Startup Weekends here. Great, if you are part of that, that's fantastic. It's a fantastic space to be. You can be there, you can take part in that disruption and come up with new business models in order to disrupt the old ways of doing things. A lot of positive energy and enthusiasm. That picture is a real picture. They're disused, I think they are Jubilee Line underground trains, which were about to be sent to the graveyard to be dismantled, and which have been turned into offices. Offices on top of a building in East London, Shoreditch. If you go to London, raise your head and you'd see them. And people do work there. They're mostly artists and designers working for startups and taking part and embracing that wind of disruptive but highly creative change as well. Yet, if you are the other side of the spectrum, it is very disruptive. Okay, it is unsettling. Sudden change for no benefit. Okay, organization in search of more flexibility, putting you on 0-hour contract, and then you're wondering what's my purpose in this society. I mentioned before the disposable worker and sense of identity. What's relatively new, and something that started about 10 years ago, is that disruption is increasingly hitting educated professionals as well as uneducated workers. Okay? The past 30 years, uneducated or people in low skills jobs were suffering disruption. As organizations were looking for more flexible and efficient way of making use of what is, by world standard, a relatively expensive labor force. But increasingly we're moving, that disruption is hitting well-experienced professionals and well-educated individuals. For example, this platform, MBA and Company, who are they? They are former MBA students. They are professionals who went into an MBA program and then pitch organization at subject projects, pieces of work, and they are looking for using the brains of experienced professionals who've got MBAs in order to find individuals who will be able to address their problems. Okay? Those organizations in the old days would either employ the consultants in-house or they would be outsourcing the work to a management consultancy firm. Okay? Today, technological revolution makes it very easy for all of us to become freelance workers. This is people by the hour. You might know that platform. Whether if you're a professional, if you're a designer, if you are a web designer, if you are a brand expert, if you are a marketing expert, well, you can go to that platform and pitch for work by organizations who submit that project. Okay. So management consultancy, professional services, fintech, a number of startups trying to disrupt the financial services industry. And on the screen you recognize Tico, who you met a couple of months ago, One Planet MBA alumnus, taking part and embracing that disruption and the creative energy that being part of that movement gives him. The guilds that were created after the war to erect barriers to entry to specific professional jobs, they are increasingly being disrupted. Higher education, why pay for an expensive degree when you've got all those books around for free? You can update your knowledge and possibly your skills by registering for a free course that run on one of those platforms, and those provide fantastic opportunities for people who don't have the means to study for expensive education. Public sector, especially in Western Europe, public sector once provider of lifetime employment. Today, if you look at public sector, with cuts taking place every year, and same happened in America before, public sector plugs into NGOs and charities and external firms to provide the service. And all they do is facilitate the transaction. They do very little in-house because of budgetary constraints. So wherever you are, it's going to be challenging, okay? And including if you are well educated, because of the sea of change that is coming to us. Looking at it from a more positive side, those revolutions, those digital technologies have the potential to do a lot of good for society. Okay, so whether it's in healthcare, enabling a greater cost control by each of us wearing sensors. You've got the Google project that aims at monitoring the content of your blood glucose through your eyes to prevent you from having a hypo, for example. That's something that can make a significant impact on the cost of providing healthcare by making healthcare much smarter than it is, and without spending the huge amount of money that we do at the moment. Greater equality of access. Think about education. The Khan Academy, for example, enables millions of people in developing economies to have access to the best brains in the world by taking part in online education courses. Greater flexibility at work. You had a workshop about the future of the workplace. I think you need to look at it with that sea of change in mind. There will be times when we'll be working, and there will be times when we won't be working. And the challenge for governments lies in creating the regulation, the structures, the welfare system that will enable us to make a living while having potentially much greater freedom in terms of the amount of time we dedicate to work. The positive is that work-life balance will be better achieved because we will enjoy greater flexibility at work, but how are we going to fund it? Okay, and there's a lot of thinking going through in that area to identify the regulation that we need and the infrastructure that we need to make it work as a society. Okay, so as an academic, I may be made redundant one day from this place, and I might have to reinvent myself and pitch for work on those online platforms and do courses here and there, and make money as I run courses in different institutions, but I won't be teaching every week. So what will I do when I'm not teaching? Okay? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to educate my kids? Type of things. So it's about rethinking the way we go about it. So those technologies have the potential, however, to make this world a much more sustainable world, because it will promote a much greater efficiency in the resources that we use. Okay? So I think that there are some pros and the cons. So what do we need in order to succeed? Definitely an entrepreneurial mindset. I think if we are moving away from a managerial capitalism where MBAs, if you think about it, MBAs originally stood for Master of Business Administration, while today we don't need administrators. Okay, if we move to a world, a capitalism that is far more entrepreneurial, we need professionals, business professionals who are far more active. You could say MBA, Master of Business Administration, or Master of Business Action. And actually, we need the action. And it will be down to each of you to turn yourself into entrepreneurs and selling yourself. And so the networking and the selling yourself and looking after your brand in order to thrive in a world that is going to change. Up-to-date knowledge, skills and tools, okay? And yes, a willingness to disrupt yourself. Don't wait for you to be disrupted by the next big thing, but disrupt yourself. Okay? Think about how can you make greater use of your skills, your knowledge, your experience, your networks, your contacts, and turn them into opportunities. Those changes will generate opportunities. Internet of Things, 3D printing, the availability of digital tools which enable you better than ever before to market yourself, to reach out to customers at the far end of the world, to sell your products and services. It's much easier than it was 10, 20 or 30 years ago. So you will hopefully see you on those. I hope I haven't missed anybody from the side. I counted, but I'm not sure. And I'd like to link this to what we try and do in One Planet MBA. Okay, One Planet MBA. The curriculum evolves every year. We need to make sure the currency of the content is there, the practical relevance is there, but our values, the mindset that we try and promoting upon, hasn't changed since 2010, 2011. Be inclusive and imaginative in your vision. Inform about yourselves. Global in your outlook. Conscious of your responsibilities and mindful of your legacy. Okay. So, and I think what makes you unique, especially in a changing world, are not necessarily the knowledge and the skills that you will gain through that program, but your mindset, your attitude. Okay? So it's all about what? Being an authentic, resourceful, and resilient leader. We're moving into a world that will be very different from that of the past. Authentic leadership is the new gold standard. Okay, leadership 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the models were based on command and control type of system. We moved away from that. Employees, managers, middle-level managers, they need a sense of purpose. Okay, and they will rely on you to inspire them every single day. Authentic leadership, resourceful, resilient, globally minded yet worldly professionals, influencer, advocating change. You will go back into your organizations after this program, or you will join different organizations. They are going to be disrupted sooner or later. Okay, how can you bring that innovative business thinking into those organizations to ensure they remain relevant despite the disruption we'll be experiencing? Thinkers, digitally aware. I think this world will be digital, whether we like it or not. Okay, and digital is not just about the iPad. It's about all the technologies that are redefining our supply chains, that are redefining what the organization is about, and every single function of it. Reflective and transformed persons, responsible and ethical professionals. It's not doom and gloom, okay? Just to conclude, I would say the future is bright, but you have to seize the opportunity and be alert to it.
question I interrupted you with, which I apologise. Isn't oil the third industrial revolution?
I'm sorry?
Isn't oil the
Oil.
third revolution becoming digital? It's transformed.
I'm not sure. I think steam was definitely one. Well, oil made it possible to get the steel, I guess. Yeah. And then the third one would have to be the digital revolution.
The oil made road transport, air transport. I mean, the whole thing completely shrunk the world.
The transport for steel was coal at that stage, wasn't
It was good. Yeah.
it? Perhaps this is the fourth revolution.
I think no, people refer to it as the third. I think I will send you some material if you want. People refer to it as the third, so it is the third industrial revolution. The railway and the steel that created the railway was definitely the second one. Yeah. So, yeah.
With the idea of 3D printing and being able to just generate what we need in the kitchen, for example, does not firstly actually increase consumption, but secondly, how do we look at the materials we're using to make sure that if we're looking at a circular economy, is that being looked at the same time so that we can keep reusing the materials we're putting through the 3D printer?
Well, I don't think the technology is necessarily that advanced. You can build things. I'm not sure 3D printer will help you unbundle components, probably not. But I think the disruptive aspect of 3D printing is that you can create objects in your own kitchen or your own bedroom for free. Okay? And therefore, all producers, or typical producers of those objects, will potentially be at risk of being driven out of business when 3D printers will become popular kitchen accessories. I saw one in Plymouth last week, a 3D printer, quite small, and I know from press reports that some students from America, they couldn't afford a Rolex, okay? So they studied the Rolex in every single detail, and then they bought a 3D printer and they created their own Rolex for a fraction of the cost. Okay? That's something that the emerging business model module will tackle, the issue of 3D printing and how it can revolutionize the world of business. But I don't think that's something that will come afterwards. Once we get the printer, I guess other people will be busy creating the devices that will enable us to unbundle the outcome of the printer in order to reuse and recycle and using regenerative technologies.
Because the risk at the moment is that we just produce
Yeah.
another item and
Of
another
course.
item.
Yeah. But if it's made of plastic, then those items can be discarded and recycled and then reused later on. Not necessarily by 3D printing stuff.
Nicolas, just draw your attention to that question up there.
At least in the developed world, how will zero marginal cost impact our ability to value the material world?
It is a philosophical question, isn't it? I think that's a good one, and I think it will impact on a value system. But I think if you look at it today, 20 years ago, never would you have shared the use of a car with someone else. Okay, I think people put a lot of pride in the car that they had, and it had to be their car, and they would never share it with anybody else. Today, in big cities around the world, especially in London here in the UK, but also in America, you've got Zipcar and those car sharing schemes. I mean, the very thought of sharing a car that doesn't belong to you and just use it for a set period of time before you send it back, and then reuse it later and share the space of the car with someone else, it's quite innovative. And I think we've traveled a long way. I don't think people are as material as they were 20, 30 years ago. Okay? Yeah. It's an interesting question, and it will impact on our value systems, and it will have probably profound impacts on it. But I think it's already started, and we've changed already. Another question from the presentation: it's clear that disruptive innovation is possible in places with advanced modes of technology. How do you reconcile this with developing nations where technology is still a challenge? Does it mean that disruptive innovation is not workable there? Actually, that's interesting because a lot of frugal innovation has come from developing countries. And that frugal innovation can be as disruptive as any less frugal innovation can be. Is that a question from the room, or is that a question? Okay, thank you. So frugal innovation can be disruptive and is being disruptive. What's interesting is that some large multinational firms, what they started doing about 10 years ago was to develop frugal innovation in emerging economies to come up with products that would suit the needs and the purchasing power of local consumers there. And those products are then being exported in traditional Western countries and positioned as a no-frills type of product. Okay? That technology and the process innovation can be a disruptive innovation and can be used as part of a disruptive business model to disrupt incumbent players. So I think we'll see a lot of that coming from emerging countries. Yeah.
I would be very interested in your view on the impact of this disruptive work on the finance world, financial business. There are also many startups upcoming in this area, like for example TransferWise, which so we can easily transfer money from Europe, for example, to England, without any exchange costs.
Yeah.
I think this is where all these business models from banks are built on today, and there are many other startups upcoming in the financial world. I think we haven't seen so many disruptive things happening in the finance world, but I'm sure there will be. Do you have an opinion on this?
I don't have an opinion as such. It is coming. It is coming. You have a presentation on the MBA in February with arranged for Paul Turner from Lloyds Bank. Yeah, he will come and talk about disruption in the financial services industry. I think it's long overdue. It is long overdue, and it's something that people will welcome. The government has been relatively active in recent years to encourage individuals to switch bank accounts, because banking is a very well-established industry, and people put a lot of trust and faith in their bank. And once you get direct debits or standing order set up, you're unwilling to change bank. Okay, and the government has started to encourage individuals to switch banks, and but it had very limited impact. Okay. And I think the sector is ready for innovation. We can see a lot of players coming in, and it's going to be an exciting space to be. Banking commissions of financial transfers don't have to be as high as they are. Yeah. And we're going to enjoy the benefit from all that innovation coming into that area. Yeah, yeah. And it's going to be a fantastic time. Yeah.
Two questions there, just one after the other, Nicolas.
Okay, so are we awfully optimistic on the ability of technology to solve social problems? It may disrupt current business models, but it is hard to find evidence that the per capita car use or the hotel environmental footprint has come down in cities or regions when it has gained traction. In effect, we are starting
increasing consumption conundrum.
Yes, I think. Yes, I think technology has. I don't know what's that question. Julie, maybe no. Okay. Okay. So maybe
Lingara J. I think it's outside, so it's
outside. Very good. Yes. No. Technology has the potential to make this world more sustainable. Okay. That's it. That's definitely. However, it won't necessarily reduce the carbon footprint of individuals or organizations, because that technology will generate activity that wouldn't necessarily take part, or that wouldn't necessarily take place otherwise. For example, if you've got if you can secure a room for the night at a lower price than you would if you were relying on hotel accommodation, then you will be tempted to travel more often. Weekend breaks. Okay? So that technology, or the business model that sits behind the technology, may encourage individuals to travel more and therefore to generate more carbon footprint than the technology might be able to solve. I don't think there's a definitive answer to that question. That we'll see both an increase in global carbon footprint, while the technology might help us get closer to a more sustainable world. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and thank you for listening to it or watching it here in this venue at Exeter. Thank you.